podcast series. I am your host Shikha and you are watching Business Unplugged, a podcast where we bring you fresh insights, groundbreaking innovations, and insightful conversations as we decode the business world one episode at a time. Stay tuned as we have our guest today, Shreya Kalra, who will be talking about sustainability, circular economy, and the responsible business organizations. Hi Shreya, can you share a bit about your journey and background in sustainability?
So I did my graduation in economic honors, and post that I pursued MBA in business sustainability. That MBA gave me an edge and an understanding of what sustainability and other allied branches of sustainability is all about. For example, what is CSR all about? What is sustainability reporting all about? How business ethics when integrated with sustainability looks like. So I got a gist of how that MBA equipped me with a lot of knowledge and a lot of hands-on experience because I pursued a lot of internships and I got industry experiences through that tenure. And then post that, I worked with consulting firms and one FMCG sector company, which where I learned variety of domains. So to start with, I learned how sustainability reporting works, what all are the frameworks when it comes to reporting, and it has been a very evolving landscape when it comes to sustainability reporting. And then there are these ESG rating agencies which rate companies on their ESG performance. So it is gaining importance gradually because investors are now very interested in knowing the ESG related aspects of companies. And then I learned a lot about circularity and plastics and packaging, the entire plastic packaging economy. So I worked a lot with FMCG companies and other packaging related companies in India, and there is a very complex landscape when we talk about it. So this has been like my diverse experience in sustainability up till now.
So you just mentioned that you work with consulting firms at the same time you work with an FMCG company. So these two are very different landscapes altogether. So how sustainability differs here in terms of working in a consulting firm and working in an FMCG company? How the terms like ESG differ in terms of sustainability at FMCG company and in the consulting area?
So consulting is more pertaining to advisory and more pertaining to non-financial assurance, which is gaining more traction nowadays because the government has mandated for certain indicators that non-financial assurance is mandatory. So when it comes to consulting, there are different sectors of companies that we cater to, different chemical companies, different type of cement companies, and when it comes to one particular sector, just in other words, like being on the client side, for example, then it differs a lot because then you are inside that system and you get like a better broad visibility of how things work actually. So it is not as easy as giving a very broad level advisory and the firm would follow that. So there are a lot of aspects pertaining to that. So when we talk the three pillars, ES and G, if we like go to the practical example, governance, right? So as a part of consulting, we just give broad level recommendations or improvement areas, for example, developing an ESG committee, right? But in the FMCG sector or in the company where I was working, even though it's a fairly mature company and ESG committee or other governance related aspects are very well mentioned there or present there, still there are some scope for improvement, and there are a lot of internal stakeholders that are involved. The leadership has their own views, and then trickling down to social and environment again. When we are in a particular company, when we are in a particular sector, then we have a broader visibility of how environmental related parameters are actually working. So different aspects when it comes to packaging, when it comes to biodiversity, when it comes to water, waste management, then it's a very complex scenario because the companies have to follow compliances, the companies have to see some voluntary disclosures, they have to keep up with the markets, they have to see how the customers respond to their changed packaging and companies take, like they have their ambitions and goals, for example water positivity, but it takes a lot to basically progress towards that goal. So a lot of E, S and G parameters integrated together will help progress towards that goal. Whereas as consultants, we can just give a roadmap to companies, and we can just say, like, this is the ambition or aim that you can follow because maybe the peers or maybe the industry best practices are such. So it's a very deep down approach when it comes to the sector.
Maybe moving from a consulting domain to a company is like moving to a niche area.
Yes.
Where you're working into the detailed analysis of the company, each aspect of E, S, and G, and then talking about different parameters that they have to follow as in terms of their regulations, their particular industry responsibilities, right? So sustainability now is just not an ethical responsibility. If you talk about it, became a business imperative. So what is the turning point that came into the picture which made it a business imperative rather than just an ethical responsibility?
So I think businesses, most of the businesses, if we see, they will obviously operate on some kind of an ethics. So ethically, businesses are strong. So when we talk about the triple bottom line concept, people, planet and profit, so everything has to go hand in hand. So even if the company is making great profits with, properly complying with standards and everything, ethically complying legally, and but if it's not responsible enough, if it is not tracking the waste consumption, the water consumption, the emissions that it is creating, and if it's not tracking that, then it's a very problematic way of operating business. So I'll give you a very small example. So I was working for this chemical sector client, and one of their product lines was manufacturing salt, the common salt that we eat, and they had very minimal knowledge around sustainability, and they just thought it's a buzzword and we'll just put one or two words in the report and everything and we'll get it cleared. So there was not much that I could see around water management or resource efficiency for that matter. So I reached out to them. I said that, hey, your disclosures around resource efficiency and water management are not that great. So they said, we just make salt out of the seawater. So I said, but you have to keep a track of how much resources are being consumed by the company, and you are consuming these natural resources. So what are you giving back to the environment? So they said, sea has plenty of water, and even if we take a bucket full of water from it, it won't make much of a difference.
Right.
And how can we keep track of?
This is what the concept goes into everyone's mind, actually.
Yes, that there is abundance of everything in the nature, and even if we take a bucket full, or look, that particular company is taking more than what we are taking from the nature. So all of these aspects, I think it's high time that everybody starts thinking about it. When we talk about regulations, they are also evolving at a rapid scale, and when it comes to companies also, they have to act in a very responsible way. So yes.
So again, coming from your point where you said it becomes a responsibility. So there is one thing which is very core of the sustainability, which is circular economy. So can you just break down the circular economy to our listeners and maybe just bring that how circular economy is embedded into the business these days?
Okay. So usually what happens is that a product gets manufactured, and then it takes some raw materials to get manufactured, and then it goes in the market, consumers purchase it. So a very common example that I would want to highlight is that we purchase a water bottle maybe, and then it would be getting manufactured in some factory, and then we consume the water and then we dispose it off. So that contributes into the garbage part, and then it goes into the landfill. So it's a very linear model where we are, it's a take, make, dispose model where we are, taking certain things from the environment or nature, and then we are making it, and then we are using it, and then we are disposing it. But when we talk about circular economy, it's much more than it. So circular economy means closing the loop. So it's not a linear model. So whatever we consume or the consumers consume, it does not ends up in landfill. So the aim of circular economy is that it does not pollutes the environment, it does not ends up in the landfill. And most of the waste that is either hazardous or it affects the environment in a very negative way or causes some kind of a negative externality, such kind of wastes are basically, or products are covered under circular economy. So for example, a paper bag might not require circular economy model to be integrated, but for example, some sort of a plastic packaging, some sort of a water bottle, plastic based water bottle, that might need some interventions. So we talk about recycling or maybe reuse. So these are the two main kind of models that help in circularity, or that are crucial for circularity or bringing the circular economy concept.
That means there's a shift that is required from a linear model to a circular
Yes.
model. And I believe that most of the organization, even if you talk about any large scale organization, they must be embarrassing this circular economy concept. Can you just give some certain examples of large scale organizations which are following the circular economy concept?
So there are 2-3 ways of approaching circularity. One can be basic R&D and maybe shifting the packaging to a more sustainable one or to a more eco-friendly one. So the alternative packaging types. So companies nowadays are taking ambitions of water positivity or plastic neutrality, under which they either eliminate through proper research and development, they eliminate some sort of plastic packaging elements, or they basically send it for co-processing or recycling. So there are companies in India which are progressing towards plastic neutrality. So that ensures that the loop is closed. So the waste that is collected is is co-processed and is recycled properly, and that is how the loop gets closed. So it is not polluting the environment, it is not ending up in the landfills. And other way around, when we talk about innovation in packaging, then alternatives. So for example, nowadays most of the shampoos or hand washes or other such kind of detergents, they are coming in sachets, paper based sachets, and in a powder form. So it is not only saving the environment, but also less water is being used, and packaging wise also it's more sustainable. So the consumers don't have to worry much about disposing of that paper packaging. So even if it ends up in landfill, it will not harm the environment in some negative manner.
So we have discussed about large scale organizations and meeting sustainability. But what about the events that come up? Like if you talk about the latest event that we witnessed all, Mahakumbh. So how sustainability is embedded into the event like Mahakumbh? Can you just talk about that?
So I think it's a very recent event that happened in India, and crores of people turned out at the Mahakumbh, and there was a lot boast in tourism as well. And with people also comes great responsibility, because at such tourist places and at such religious places, it's very important to ensure that the entire festival is carried out in a very sustainable manner. And there were some initiatives by the government. There has been recycling plants set up. There have been waste collection and segregation being done in a proper manner. So one of the campaigns that gained a lot of traction was one bag, one plate. So it was a campaign that the government had started to avoid disposables, to avoid single-use plastic items during the Mahakumbh. And even the local shop owners, they were strictly asked to use maybe some kulhar for chai or maybe some other eco-friendly alternative to serve food in. And such single-use cutlery was completely eliminated from there. So I think it's very important because if a lot of people are turning up for that event, and if it is not carried out in a very responsible manner, then it will be very problematic for the environment, for the rivers, and for the general environment.
Right. So that means we need to integrate sustainability not just into businesses,
Yes.
but in any kind of event that the business that we witness at a large scale also.
Mhm.
So coming down to the policy part, so there must be certain policy initiatives, policy imperatives that the businesses might need to follow so as to embed sustainability into their core. So would you just highlight on certain policy initiatives or that mandates companies to follow these sustainable norms?
So globally, there have been a lot of regulations around sustainability, a lot of awareness, a lot of reporting around sustainability parameters. With Europe, leader with its packaging regulation, with its sustainability reporting initiatives. But in India, it's gaining traction nowadays. So the government has come up with Viksit Bharat 2047 mission, where one of their focus is on environmental sustainability, and the government is coming up with a lot of regulations nowadays. So one mandatory regulation is around business responsibility and sustainability report, BRSR. So it is a mandate by SEBI that the companies, top 1,000 listed companies, have to basically report on certain environmental, social, and governance related parameters. So there's a format to it, and companies have to report on it. And they also, as the years progress by, uh, initially 250 companies require non-financial assurance on those parameters, and then 500, and then 1,000 listed companies. So it's a 3-year progress that the government has laid down. And apart from that, there is also a lot of regulations around EPR, which is the talk of the town nowadays. So extended producers responsibility is something that the government has laid down certain rules and regulations around it, and the companies have to basically comply with it. So before the extended producers responsibility, there was a regulation around plastic waste management rules. So it under that, the companies had to register themselves under State Pollution Control Board. But now there's a centralized portal for it. So any waste pertaining to plastics, e-waste, battery waste, used oil, tire waste. So these are the 5 categories which the government has identified currently, under which the companies have to register themselves for EPR. So when we talk about circularity or closing the loop, these are the top 5 areas or waste streams that the government has currently identified. And there is like a lot of traction nowadays on that, and it's a mandatory annual reporting that the companies have to do under that.
Okay, so when you talked about the extended producer responsibility, what came to my mind is about the plastic packaging a lot, because we see a lot of garbage coming in terms of plastic packaging, be it used at home or at different organizations, and everything which is being delivered to our houses also contains a lot of plastic. So can you just narrate something related to the plastic packaging aspect and how the extended producer's responsibility happened to be in that arena?
Okay, so the government has laid some guidelines around EPR for plastics, and there's a centralized portal for it as well. So the companies are categorized under 3 buckets: brand owners, importers, and producers. So it's famously called as the PBOs. So producer, importer, brand owners. This is how it goes. And with the recent amendment in place, micro and small organizations have also come into the picture. So they also have to abide by the rules. So plastic packaging is basically categorized into 4 types. One is flexible packaging, the sheet-like packaging or the flexible form of packaging, polythene form. And then there's rigid plastic packaging. So PET bottles are the famous example for rigid packaging. And then there is multi-layered packaging. So the chips packet that we talked about, or maybe the aseptic beverage cartons that are there. So they contain multiple layers of packaging, which are different layers. So one can be aluminium, one can be paper, one can be plastic. So it is done basically to protect the contents inside the product, basically from temperature, to make it temperature proof, to increase the shelf life. So though multi-layer plastic is of very good use in today's world, keeping up with the climate change and changing climatic conditions, but then it is a little difficult to recycle as well. So that is the third plastic packaging type. And then the fourth is compostable or biodegradable plastics, which are recently upcoming kind of plastics. And in India, the companies who are into manufacturing such kind of plastics, they have to obtain a certain certification from the labs and from governing bodies. So this is a broad framework of how the EPR looks like. So there is a categorization of businesses, and there is a categorization of plastic packaging, and then there are certain targets allotted. So there would be EPR or recycling targets for the brand owners. There are similarly for importers and similarly for brand owners. And then one most interesting part is that these regulations talk about reuse. So reuse is a fairly new concept in India, especially because there is fairly mature recycling infrastructure nowadays in India, but reuse as a concept is very new. So what the regulations talk about is that the companies, especially the brand owners, so who are the brand owners that basically source their packaging material from some producer or some manufacturer, and they put their product in that packaging, and then they sell it off to consumers. So they have reuse targets. So when it comes to rigid packaging, then they have percentage wise targets year on year. And even if we go deeper in the rigid packaging, then they have targets of based on volumes. So keeping in mind the complex scenario of the Indian markets, it's very difficult to reuse. And there is no formal definition for reuse right now. So the government has given targets, but there is not much clarity around it. Reuse, if we talk about, there are certain companies who have started pilot models around it, but then scalability around those becomes a challenge. So for example, one startup that I recently read about, they came up with their you bring your own bottles to their refillable van, and you so they cut down on the packaging part. So you bring your own bottles, or even if you don't bring your own bottles, they have sustainable options available with them, which are again reusable. So it's very difficult to operate on a scale in such model, because we are dealing with masses and a lot of consumer base, they have complex requirements. Consumer behavior is anyway evolving at such a fast speed. So reuse is something that it's currently quite debatable, because the landscape right now does not looks that favorable. And broadly, EPR is helping companies to so what happens is that if I am producing something, if I am producing like a film sheet or a packaging material, then at the end it will end up in the landfill. So through EPR, I can make sure it is collected and it is either sent for recycling, or it is either sent to the cement kilns for co-processing. So that is how it closes the loop. So when you have to mandatorily report or maybe comply with the government regulations, then it becomes imperative for the companies, for the brand owners, for the importers to close the loop in an efficient manner.
So thank you so much, Shreya, for such an insightful discussions. It was wonderful learning from your experiences and understanding how businesses, individuals, policymakers need to integrate sustainability at the core of it. Thank you to the listeners for stay tuning in, and keep tuning in as we decode the business world one episode at a time. Thank you.
Thank you so much.